So in our phase 2 proof of concept study we showed great clinical efficacy, but what we also did in that study was a very detailed examination of the microbiome of all 100 patients enrolled in the study during the course of therapy and in that post-dosing follow-up period. And the data were extremely encouraging. So if you look after 10 days of treatment with ridinilazole, you can see obviously loss of C. difficile from the gut microbiome, very important, but really little or no effect on any other organisms that are making up the gut microbiota. Any activity was isolated to just 1 or 2 closely related Clostridia species. But if you look at the vancomycin treated patients, then actually you see microbiome-wide damage. You see loss in the firmicutes, so that's the gram-positive spore-forming anaerobes, as you might expect given the profile of vancomycin. But actually we also started to see significant reductions, almost to below the limit of detection, in the B. fragilis group. These are gram-negatives, but the concentration of vancomycin in the gut is so high we start to knock out some of those organisms. The same in the actinobacteria, which contains many important members of the gut microbiota that we all know about, things like bifidobacterium. And we saw reductions in these organisms, but I think one of the things that was most interesting was not only do we see these reductions because vancomycin has antibacterial activity against these bacteria, suddenly the gut became dominated by the gram-negative. So we saw overgrowth of the proteobacteria, the Enterobacteriaceae, so it's seeing a huge microbiome-wide shift when we treat for 10 days with vancomycin. And when you look at this, it's no wonder patients are primed for recurrent disease. That niche that C. difficile can exploit, that environment that makes it so conducive to overgrowth of C. diff still exists, and this is why patients treated with things like vancomycin go on to have a return of the infection. Yet when you look at the difference with ridinilazole, you don't see that. There was even some evidence of recovery of the gut microbiome during the 30 days post-endotherapy, minimizing risks of recurrent disease. And one of the nice things I think as well when we looked at this data from the phase 2 was we had this hypothesis right at the early stages of discovery when we were at the bench that we have a very targeted spectrum, we preserve the microbiome, we're a gut restricted drug, that should minimize recurrences. And actually to see that play out, that strong translational story is really pleasing actually to demonstrate that in phase 2 in C. diff patients.